The desert does not forget. Beneath its endless dunes and silent winds, it holds the whispers of souls who once loved fiercely, who dared to defy time itself. Among them lives one story, carried gently by the breath of the Arabian night, the tale of Fazza, Dubai's poet prince, and the woman who became both his muse and his mystery. To the world, he is Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed al Maktoum, a leader, a dreamer, a man of strength. But to the desert, he is something else entirely, a heart that once burned with love so pure that even the sand remembers her name. He first saw her when the sun was melting into the dunes, that hour when light turns golden and shadows stretch like poems. She was not royalty, nor a figure of power, she was a presence, serene and untamed, like the wind that defies all chains. Her laughter was soft yet commanding, her gaze a quiet rebellion. When their eyes met, the world stilled for a moment, as if destiny itself bowed to watch their beginning. In that instant, the prince who had everything felt he had found the one thing he had always missed, the pulse that matched his own. Days folded into nights, and their souls began to speak in silence. They would meet beneath the crescent moon, far from palaces and politics, in the open embrace of the desert. There, words were unnecessary, the stars were their witnesses, the dunes their confidants. She listened to his verses, and he to her quiet dreams. Between them grew something neither crown nor circumstance could contain, a love untamed by title, unbound by time. It was not just affection, it was an awakening. She reminded him that beneath his royal robes, he was still a man, one who could feel, fear, and fall. He began to write again, not as the poet Fazza admired by millions, but as a man consumed by devotion. His poems became offerings, each verse a confession carved from the depths of his heart. He wrote of her eyes as constellations, of her soul as the desert wind. When she breathes, one of his lines read, "The world exhales peace." His words traveled the world, reaching hearts he would never meet, yet no one knew who she was, the nameless woman who had set the poet's soul ablaze. One that required strength greater than any crown could bestow. His heart had found her once, and that was enough to make every sunrise worth witnessing. But the world of royalty is not kind to love ungoverned. Rumors became storms, and whispers grew teeth. Their meetings became rarer, their moments together stolen from time's watchful eyes. She, fearing she might be the cause of his unrest, chose to disappear into silence, not out of weakness, but love. She knew that sometimes the greatest act of devotion is to step away, to let the beloved rise without burden. And when she left, she took nothing, only his heart, which she had already owned. The world admired Faz's poetry, never realizing it was his heart's unending search for her. Sometimes, when he stood before the crowds, smiling and waving, his mind drifted back to the dunes, to her voice, her eyes, her quiet strength. He wondered if she still remembered him, if the wind still touched her the way it touched him. In the quiet of his chambers, he would whisper her name like a prayer. He knew that the desert still held her memory, that somewhere in the vast expanse, she still existed, maybe not in body, but in spirit. The desert had become the bridge between them, carrying their love in the language of sand and stars. One night, beneath a full moon that painted the world silver, Fazza returned to the desert alone. He stood on the same dune where they once met, and for the first time in years, he spoke aloud to her, not in longing, but in gratitude. "You taught me that love is not possession," he whispered to the wind. "It is freedom, it is remembering without regret." The desert stirred softly, as if answering him. He closed his eyes, and for a heartbeat, he felt her, her touch in the breeze, her laughter in the distance. It was fleeting, but it was enough. He rode back that night, his heart lighter than it had been in years. The ache had transformed into something sacred, a peace born from remembrance. He no longer needed to find her, she was everywhere. In the sunrise that bathed the towers of Dubai, in the scent of rain upon sand, in the stillness, as the years folded like pages in a sacred book, Dubai evolved into a living poem, one that Fazza wrote not only with ink but with heart. The city mirrored his journey, vast, luminous, and full of memory. Each dawn seemed to whisper her name in colors the sky could not contain. He often walked alone at sunrise, the stillness around him echoing the silence she left behind. And though the world celebrated his brilliance, only he and the desert knew the truth, that every accomplishment was a conversation with her spirit. His empire was not built from ambition alone, but from the love that once bloomed under the desert moon. There came a morning when he found one of his old journals, its leather worn, its pages heavy with time. Between faded lines of verse, a single flower was pressed, delicate, pale, untouched. It was from that night long ago, the night she had handed it to him before the dawn took her away. The sight of it broke him open, not in pain, but in wonder. For even after years of wind and distance, the petals had not crumbled. Just like their love, fragile yet unbroken, still living in quiet defiance of time. He closed the journal gently, whispering to the desert wind, "You kept her for me, didn't you?" And the dunes shifted softly, as if smiling. Fazza began to teach others that love is not a possession, but a presence, something you nurture, not control. In gatherings, he spoke of compassion as the highest form of leadership, and his people listened with reverence. They did not know his lessons were born of heartbreak, that every word of kindness carried the echo of her goodbye. He led his nation as a poet leads a verse, with feeling, rhythm, and grace. And though the world saw a ruler, the desert still saw the lover. The man who once wept into the sand and turned his sorrow into art. One twilight, when the sky glowed amber and the wind carried a rare stillness, Fazza returned once more to the dunes where it had all begun. He dismounted his horse and stood barefoot upon the sand, closing his eyes.